We often think of space as being empty, silent, and cold. However, it's actually brimming with objects that are hot enough to make your head spin. The universe is full of things that are thousands or even millions of times hotter than our sun. And one of these objects is known as the cosmic titans, also known as red monsters. These mysterious giants have been observed throughout the universe, and yet we still know very little about them. So what are these mysterious objects in space? What are they, and why are they called red monsters? Why do they glow a deep shade of red? Join us today as we take a look at these enormous interstellar objects that are so vast. They can fit billions of stars just like our sun into their colossal bodies. You definitely don't want to miss this. We're all aware that the universe is expanding and moving at an incredible pace. But despite the fact that it's nearly 14 billion years old, there are still a lot of things that scientists don't know about. There are countless mysteries that continue to baffle astronomers, such as dark matter and dark energy, as well as strange objects that defy explanation. This is partly because space is so big, and partly because studying things in space is difficult due to the vast distances involved. But one thing that scientists have managed to get a handle on are the cosmic titans, sometimes referred to as red monsters. Well, let's be honest, the name isn't very scientific. In fact, it's pretty informal. But that's partly because we don't really know what they are. And how do we come up with a name for something if we don't understand it? Anyway, these massive objects are some of the biggest in the universe, and they thought to be around 30 times heavier than our sun. The reason we call them red monsters is because they have a deep red color and they massive. But what causes this red color? Well, we think that these objects have a huge core of iron, which is similar to what you'd find in a star like our sun. Around this core is a dense shell of carbon, oxygen, and neon. Then there's another smaller core of iron at the center of the shell. But that's not all. We believe that the outer layer of the red monster contains a mix of helium and hydrogen, and that's where the red color comes from. It's believed that this happens when these elements are heated to extreme temperatures. These objects are humongous, but we don't exactly know their size because we haven't studied enough of them. The first one we ever found was in a binary system in the constellation Valens, and that's where the name Canis Majoris came from. It's the star's designation in the constellation Canis Major. But since then, we've found many more red monsters throughout the universe, and we're still finding more. Now, astronomers aren't sure what exactly these objects are, but there are a few theories out there. One theory is that these objects are the remnants of two helium-rich stars that merged together to form one giant star. Another theory is that these objects are the result of a massive star exploding as a supernova. Whatever the case may be, these objects are incredibly dense and massive, and they're also very far away. The one we found in the constellation Valens is about 32,000 light-years from Earth. That means that if we were to travel at the speed of light, it would take us over 32,000 years to get there. But that's not really surprising given the size of space. In fact, the sheer size of space is one of the reasons why it's been so hard to study these objects in the first place. They're just so far away that it's difficult to get a good look at them. But thanks to modern technology, we've been able to learn a lot more about these objects in recent years. For example, we now know that they have a very high mass and a very low luminosity. This means that they're not very bright given their size. That's part of the reason why they're so hard to spot. They're just not very flashy. But don't let their lack of flashiness fool you. These objects are some of the most massive in the universe. Despite their small size, these objects are incredibly dense and have a very strong gravitational pull. This is part of the reason why they're so hard to study. Anything that gets too close to them is pulled in and destroyed. But despite the challenges that these objects present, astronomers are eager to learn more about them. After all, they are some of the most massive objects in the universe, and we still know very little about them. Studying these objects could help us learn more about the early universe and how it evolved over time. It could also help us better understand the life cycle of stars and what happens to them when they die. There's still a lot that we don't know about these objects, but we're slowly piecing together the puzzle. As we learn more about them, we'll be able to better understand the universe and our place in it. Red monsters may sound like creatures from a horror movie, but they're actually fascinating astronomical objects that are helping scientists learn more about the universe. These objects are some of the most massive in the universe, and they are also some of the most mysterious. But as we continue to study them, we'll be able to learn more about the early universe and the life cycle of stars. So the next time you look up at the night sky, remember that there are all kinds of amazing things out there that we don't yet understand. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be the one to make the next great discovery about the red monsters. One of the most exciting things about these objects is that they could help us learn more about the early universe. You see, the universe is constantly expanding, which means that everything is moving away from everything else. This makes it difficult to study things that are very far away, because the light from those objects has been stretched out so much that it's no longer visible. However, these objects are so massive that their gravity is strong enough to warp the fabric of spacetime around them. This means that there are areas around these objects where the expansion of the universe doesn't have an effect. These areas are called voids, and they're essentially bubbles of space that are shielded from the effects of the expanding universe. By studying these voids, scientists hope to learn more about the early universe before the expansion began. In addition to helping us learn more about the early universe, these objects could also help us better understand the life cycle of stars. Stars are born in nebulae, which are giant clouds of gas and dust. Over time, the gas and dust in the nebula collapse and form a protostar. As the protostar continues to grow, its gravity becomes stronger and stronger until it's massive enough to ignite nuclear fusion in its core. At this point, the star is born and it begins to shine brightly. But eventually the star will run out of fuel and it will begin to collapse. The collapse will cause the star's outer layers to be thrown into space, and this will leave behind a dense core. This core could be a white dwarf, a neutron star, or a black hole, depending on its mass. Scientists believe that these objects may be the cores of dead stars that have been stripped of their outer layers. By studying these objects, scientists hope to learn more about what happens to stars after they die. While there's still a lot that we don't know about these objects, the fact that they exist at all is incredibly exciting. The fact that there are objects in the universe that are so massive and mysterious is a reminder of just how much there is left to explore. Who knows what other wonders and mysteries the universe has in store for us? But one thing's for sure, it's an exciting time to be alive, and there is no better way to appreciate the amazing things happening in our world than by learning about the amazing things happening in the universe. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. Thank you for watching.